Registered massage therapy is part of many Canadians' healthcare. This raises questions about what it means to be a massage therapist. If you are a massage therapy student, what are the standards you must achieve at entry level and build upon as your career progresses? Who tests, measures, and evaluates your skills and knowledge? And if you are teaching massage therapy, what do you expect of your students? To what standards are they held accountable? As a member of the public, what can you expect from registered massage therapy? What role can it play in your healthcare? To answer those questions, let's lay out the current landscape. Regulation of healthcare matters because it protects the public's right to quality healthcare services. Across Canada, there are currently 4 jurisdictions that regulate massage therapy. RMTs provide care to the public in BC, Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador. Together, our 4 colleges are known as FOMTRAC. Hello, I'm Annette Rutenbeek. On behalf of a national team of RMTs appointed by FOMTRAC, I'm honored to have this opportunity to tell you about the standard of care in place in our regulated jurisdictions. Since 2010, our member colleges have been committed to a shared entry-level practice standard of massage therapy care for Canadians. That standard of care is represented in the interjurisdictional practice competencies and performance indicators for massage therapists at entry to practice. I'm going to call it the PCsPIs document from here on in. It was adopted by the Colleges of Massage Therapists of Newfoundland and Labrador, of Ontario, and of BC in 2012, and recently by our new colleagues at the College of Massage Therapists of New Brunswick. Like all standards, it was time for an update. That's what this video is about. And if you live in a province that does not regulate massage therapy, you may say, why does this matter? Well, the world of massage therapy in Canada is shifting. We are optimistic that shift is towards a national standard for massage therapy, consistent with what is in place for RMTs in the regulated provinces. The timing of the PCsPIs revision in 2016 is significant. It's occurring at the same time as the Canadian Massage Therapy Council for Accreditation is ramping up. This is important because that Council for Accreditation will soon provide accreditation services to massage therapy programs throughout Canada. The provinces that regulate massage therapy will require education programs in their provinces to be fully accredited with curricula that deliver the learning outcomes established by the PCsPIs document. The Council for Accreditation is using the PCsPIs as their curriculum standard. We look forward to seeing them do well. The point of this video is that educators and the regulators work together to produce a consistent, high standard of professionalism in the field of registered massage therapy. You've heard a lot from me on behalf of the regulators. Let's hear from my educator colleagues on the PCsPIs team.
I almost see this as a 3-dimensional framework because it includes not just the parameters of what it is that we're supposed to do, but it also involves the depth of knowledge that we need to have and the intensity and the focus that we need to put into our educational components. So as an instructor, it gives me this great framework to work from where I can, within the menu that is available to me, decide how much I'm putting in because I'm being given guidance. And with that guidance, I can have trust that my students have a much greater success rate, not just at the examination level, but once they become massage therapists and are working with the public.
Regulators rely on 2 mechanisms of competency assessment to qualify candidates for registration: successful completion of an accredited education program and success in the registration exam. A question for schools across Canada, regardless of jurisdiction, is how do you design your curriculum to prepare future RMTs? The learning outcomes in the practice competencies and performance indicators are the minimum standard for entry-level registered massage therapy. They represent the distilled wisdom of people with expertise in massage therapy, like Carrie, for instance.
I think from a student's perspective, knowing that teachers have that framework, schools have that framework, whether you go private or public college, everybody has that framework.
Regulatory colleges use the PCsPIs as a blueprint for our registration examinations. Education programs have the freedom to develop curriculum that works well in their community for their students with the resources they have available, with the goal of ensuring their curriculum produces the learning outcomes set out in the PCsPIs for entry-level practice. Yeah, just like that.
So educators need to be able to tailor the program in a way that works for them as an education institution and meet learning outcomes or workplace abilities that the regulators are looking for. So there's a good degree of freedom for the educators. That is a good thing because people do need different options for training, but at the end of the day you want all of those variety of training programs to produce a similar product.
And why do standards matter? They provide a reliable basis for the public to have confidence and trust in the care that they are scheduled to receive.
So now what we're looking to achieve is a national standard, and what that helps to assure is that any Canadian has access to a standard of care.
So now that you understand what this is about, let's dig into the actual PCsPIs document. I'll keep this simple. Imagine that this is a student setting out to become an RMT. The work of an RMT is complex and applies foundational knowledge from the physical, biological, health, social, and behavioral sciences. The uptake of knowledge can be assessed by looking at how it is put into action. In other words, the abilities. These abilities are defined as practice competencies. They are listed on the left-hand side of the page. Practice competencies represent demonstrable behavior that will be assessed either in the education program or the registration exams, and often both. On the left side of the page, you can see the practice competency, Perform Postural Assessment. Each practice competency is measured by performance indicators. In this case, there are 5 different indicators. Each indicator represents a behavior that can be observed in a specific assessment vehicle. The assessment vehicles are the situations in which students are observed. There are 5 of them: registration exam multiple choice questions, registration exam practical, education academic, education simulated, and educated clinical. In this example, educators can test 4 of the 5 performance indicators in the academic environment. For example, during group work in class, through a quiz, in exams. Let's go in even more detail and have a closer look at performance indicator number 3, Demonstrate Postural Assessment. Regulatory college licensing exams can assess the future RMT's ability to demonstrate postural assessment in the practical exam. The educators will ensure that future RMTs can demonstrate postural assessment in simulated scenarios, where students practice postural assessments on each other, and in clinical environments, where they practice postural assessments during appointments scheduled by the public. If the required ability is present within the specific assessment vehicles, the candidate is said to possess that practice competency. So you see, the assessment vehicles provide important information about a future RMT's abilities and the role of the education program in preparing their students for their career. Remember, the PCs and PIs are not curriculum. They specify learning outcomes. They also let candidates for registration know what to expect from the licensing exams. Educational programs present curriculum so their students will master foundational knowledge and have the ability to put that knowledge into effect in clinical practice.
The public interest is all to do with how the professional applies that knowledge and understanding in the workplace to perform job tasks. The real issue for patients is, what can that therapist do for me? The point, though, is that there is a massive amount of foundational knowledge or background knowledge that the massage therapist has to have. But the schools in their curriculum need to train all that background knowledge. So when we provide an indicator that says something like demonstrate knowledge of commonly occurring pathologies that you would see in practice, we're opening a window for assessors to delve into the depth and breadth of knowledge that a candidate has around how disease processes are created, why they work the way they do, and how they manifest with patients, and how you then interpret patient signs and symptoms.
RMTs are part of Canadians' healthcare. You can see that there is a lot of preparation and confirmation of their readiness to practice. We're confident that the national standard of care will continue to progress. Thank you for being with us.